know the phone has some dark colors already, but where is the contrast? Why am I coloring everything to look so dark? Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Carrie, and I'm a self-taught traditional and digital artist and illustrator. And today, you and I are starting a brand new sketchbook. This page is definitely a wild ride and really tested my patience and ability to trust the process, which I'm not so good at. Do I like the finished result? Maybe. I'm actually not sure, but I also don't really care about that. In this new year of 2024, I'm trying my very best to focus on the process rather than outcome of my art. So, if you like these sorts of videos, give it a like and subscribe because I have more coming shortly. Now, let's get into the sketchbooking. First, let's talk about materials. The sketchbook I'm using is the Strathmore 500 series mixed media sketchbook. This is actually my first time using this sketchbook, so I'm not sure how I feel about it just yet. Stay tuned for my updated thoughts after I've used it a few more times. Next, I'm using my go-to sketchbook materials, my copic markers and my prismacolor pencils. I also inked the page with my copic multiliners, which I don't normally do if I'm gonna go in with colored pencils, but I was experimenting and I think it worked here. Since you're seeing the inking now, let's talk about that. I I do not pretend to be an incredible inker, but I do it anyway because I fucking love ink work. I just vibe with it. And this page is not my best ink work and I know it. But here's the thing. I also know that not every piece is going to be my best effort. I went into this page pretty cold. I hadn't worked with ink in a while and I did nothing, zero things to warm up for this. So, I'm not at all surprised that some of the lines look funky and that I had to do some fixing off camera to make it look a bit better. It just is what it is. Now let's talk about the subject of the page. I often talk about how much I miss my Y2K phones. As I'll say over and over and over and over again throughout this video, these phones were just so fun. It wasn't like now where everyone has some variation of the same phone and all these phones do the exact same thing. Like you could have had a flip phone or a phone that slides out, you could have had a QWERTY keyboard or just a number pad. Some phones could hold songs, which was cool back then. All of the cameras, oh my god, all of the cameras were absolute shit. It was awesome. And I'd trade my phone for any of these if it was feasible for our current culture. But unfortunately, as phones have gotten more advanced, we've become more reliant on them, myself included. I mean, I filmed this video on my phone, something that would have been unheard of with any of the ones pictured. So, you know, I guess it's just a give and take, but oh my god, these phones are awesome. Okay, let's talk about the individual phones because as soon as I had the idea to draw some retro tech, I knew I was gonna have to share some fond memories of these Y2K relics. The first phone you're looking at is the Sprint LG Lotus. The LG Lotus launched in September 2008, and I remember having this phone roughly in 2009. And this is, as I say often, really concerningly often in casual conversation, this is my favorite phone, the most favorite phone I've ever had. First, I loved the size. Like, it's just so cute and it's square and it fit in any of my pockets. But it was also a flip phone that flipped out into a full QWERTY keyboard. And oh my god, I can't tell you how fucking cool I felt using this phone. I feel like the LG Lotus represents a lot of what I said before about what was so fun about phones in the aughts. Like, everyone had a different phone and the designs were wild, and you could pick what you wanted based on what was important to you. As I was in high school at the time, texting my friends was something that was super important to me. So I needed a phone with a QWERTY keyboard. All in all, I miss this phone so much, and I would trade my iPhone for an LG Lotus in a fucking heartbeat. For real though, we need to bring back these fun phones. As for the actual coloring process, as you can probably see, that was a struggle. But I mostly think it was because I couldn't decide what I wanted the page to look like, and I couldn't decide what colors would match my reference photo the best. So I kept adding layers and layers of ink, which the paper, by the way, took very well. I never had any concern about the paper getting kind of weird like it can if you layer alcohol ink on top of each other on cheaper paper, but it just kept getting darker and darker. And by the time I was done, you could see that the image is like, you can see it's super low contrast. And no matter what decisions I make about my style, I always want my work to be high contrast. So by the time I was done with the marker work on the Lotus, I knew that I'd either have to tear the page up or make some color pencil decisions to salvage it. And I was really leaning towards the former. I really wanted to tear the page up. I straight up almost tore it up, like right out of my sketchbook. I was just in such a fucking fury. But I took a beat and decided to try to push a bit further and bring back some of the contrast with my colored pencils. And I think it really helped with the Lotus because that phone was entirely too dark, and adding the colored pencil really did give it back some of its dimension and texture, which is a win in my book. Okay, so this next phone is the Sprint LG Rumor. The LG Rumor launched in September 2007, and I believe I had this phone in 2008, so that would have been before my Lotus. Look, I tried to go back and find photos where I could actually see the phones so that I could figure out exactly what years I had them, but I don't have too many pictures from high school. And in most of them, I'm using a digital camera, not a phone. So these are definitely guesstimations based on the year the phone came out and my general recollection of what I was doing when I had the phone and the fact that I typically replaced my phone once a year. One reason I think I had this phone before my Lotus is just because I have a distinct memory of my mom getting super pissed because I used to go over my texting limit every single month. And yes, this was the time before iMessage and before unlimited texting. Like, I don't think I got unlimited texting until, like, 2010, 2011. So, everything else was on a rationing system. I had 200 text messages, and I had to use them wisely, and, I literally never did. I literally never used them wisely, but say lovey. But again, look at how fun the design of this phone is. It truly gives you the best of both worlds because you have the regular number keypad and then you slide it up, which also made you feel super cool. And when you slide it up, you have the QWERTY keypad. So as someone who was like used to the T9 method of texting, I was thrilled that I could do both. And I don't know, I felt kind of cool like sliding my little phone up with the little psh sound that it would make and then like texting away and then like closing it back up again and putting it up to my ear. I felt cool, okay? I felt cool. Plus again, it's cute, it's small, and it didn't look like literally everyone else's phone, and I liked that. As for the coloring process, can we see how much of a struggle this is? I mean, I know the phone has some dark colors already, but where is the contrast? Why am I coloring everything to look so dark? It was truly frustrating. And again, oh my God, I was about ready to give up. I wanted to just scrap the page and try something else, but I decided to keep pushing through. And I think I made something passable. Here, again, I think the colored pencils really helped by creating some of that depth and bringing back at least some of the contrast. You can judge for yourself by the end of the video. And the last phone on this page is actually my first cell phone ever. It's the Sanyo SCP-200. Like it didn't even have a cool name. I couldn't find the exact date that this phone was launched, but I did see a CNET review from 2005, so it must have been sometime around then. I also don't remember when I first got this phone, and honestly, 2005 sounds kind of late because I remember having a phone around 2004, which would have been when I was in like the fifth or so grade, but I could be remembering wrong. All of that is to say that this phone was definitely function over style because I was 11 or 12 and I didn't need a fancy phone for anything. Like, I literally used to call my mom when I got home from school because I was a latchkey kid. I also had the Sanyo phone for the longest of all my phones because I didn't get a new phone until around 2007. So that would have been like 3-ish years with one phone. Not really something I do now. And even the replacement phone wasn't cool, but that'll be for another video where I draw some more retro tech. I think my favorite thing about this phone though was that it had like a pull-up antenna and I used to swing it around from my teeth because again, I was 11 and there was nothing else that this phone could do anyway. As for the coloring, I think this phone turned out the best, but that's mostly because the base color is the lightest in value, so it pops more from the ink work. When I went in with my colored pencils, it was mostly just to highlight a few areas rather than to fix a mess like I did with the first two. So I was pretty happy about that. Just a quick note on the title. I knew I wanted it to look sort of bubble lettery, sort of mock futuristic, the way a lot of lettering looked in the early aughts, but I'm not too sure it came across like that. I'm not a hand lettering artist, though I would like to get better, but anyway, it's supposed to look kind of like metallic bubble letters, just in case you are wondering what the vibe was. As for the phones overall, I think that after reflecting on these three phones, I am firm in my opinion that if it were feasible, I would give up my iPhone in a heartbeat to have one of these back. I know that every generation believes that the way they experienced adolescence is the best way, so like I'm not special for thinking that, but there's something that I miss about being reachable and connected, but not overly so. I miss the need to wait until I got home to check MySpace, and then a few years after that to check Facebook and Twitter. I miss not being able to search for whatever I want whenever I want. It created a compulsory waiting period that kept things moving at a slower pace. Everything is just so fast now. Everyone is constantly connected, and I don't like it. I mean, it's no problem if you do. I just miss having my phone for direct interpersonal communication and then needing a computer for pretty much everything else. It was like a built-in excuse not to know things or be up to date about things. Plus, and I cannot stress this enough, I miss when phones were fun. Phones are so boring now. Everyone's phone looks the same and I want more fun and exciting designs. And with these final finishing details, we have successfully started a new sketchbook. If you like this kind of video, stay tuned for more to come. And if you want to keep up with my art on social media, you can follow me on Instagram at classickari and on TikTok at it's classickari. If you like any of the materials I used, I'll have them linked for you down in the description. And that's it for me. So have a great rest of your day and happy creating. Bye now.